is it realistic to think we could have a Democrat run on pro-growth, or is there necessarily something of a differential in the projections of economic growth under Donald Trump, who's running for president again, as opposed to any Democrat?
Well, I mean, I think that there's a sort of rule of thumb when I was on the Goldman Sachs trading floors many years ago, was don't think about what politicians and policymakers should do. Think about what they will do. And we know that the Congressional Budget Office, the CBO, is forecasting significant pressures by 2030 around the U.S. fiscus, both in terms of debt, but also in terms of deficits. We're already looking at $1 trillion deficit this year. So when I think about corporates and generally incomes and living standards in the United States, what is it that I know to be true? And for my sensibilities, regardless of a Democratic or a Republican presidency, I think ultimately we know that taxes are going to rise.
Well, that's interesting. We have to worry about the fiscal side. At the same time, we don't hear about that from either side. Yeah. There are no fiscal hawks left.
There's no plans to reform Social Security or Medicare on any of these platforms.
We're not going to touch those entitlements.
What's interesting is if you compare the growth during the second Obama term versus what almost is the completion of the first Trump term, the biggest difference is fiscal policy. Extremely loose during the Trump administration and extremely tight during the second Obama term because of the mix of government. So what happens when you get a Democrat in the White House and you have at least a partially Republican Congress, that's the only scenario where I think you get fiscal tightening because the Republicans don't want to give the Democratic president everything they want in terms of the budget and the appropriations. So that is what you could see a replay of if you do get a change in the White House in 2021. Is you could see, at least on the discretionary side, some of these kind of budgetary constraints start to come back in.